I love a fast Ford. This one is mine, and today I'm getting to drive arguably the daddy of them all. And one that used to belong to the biggest name in the business. Welcome to Clarkson's Escort RS Cosworth. In this jump back to the early 90s, we'll cover what made the Escort special back then, what makes it special now, and how this car ended up in Jeremy's hands. By driving this RS Cosworth, it's another big bucket list tick. This year on the channel we've had an RX-7, an R34 GTR, a V8 R8, an E9 CSL BMW, and now this. Doing alright. The R8 was the best. Now, I've said some pretty bolshy things about Cosworths in the past. People rave about Sierra and Escort Cosworths. They were only 220 horsepower from factory. And I stand by those statements. People act as if from factory, these Sierras and Escorts were complete fire-breathing monsters that would try and spit you into a hedge at any moment. But 224 brake horsepower stock isn't too much more, if not the same as stuff like the Rover T-Series. Granted, these Cosworth engines were famously built to then be sent to the moon, while a Rover T-Series melts itself over 250 horsepower. But really, compared to anything post Mark V Golf GTI, it shouldn't feel that quick. Let's go for a third gear pull. 1500 RPM, nothing. 2000, nothing. 2.5, nothing. 3, okay, here we go. Okay, yep, that's quick. There's no way this car has 224 brake horsepower. Chatting to the owner afterwards, it turned out that this car has been fettled up past 300 brake horsepower, so my arse dyno was somewhat trustworthy. Something I noticed back there though, it doesn't have the brakes for it at all. I had a look at them just when I collected this car. They're tiny. If I was to own a full fat Escort Cosworth, I'd be upgrading the brakes straight away. The steering is just like what you'd expect a Group A homologation car to be, just like a Lancia Delta Integrale. The front end is so responsive. My feet are exactly where they want to be on the pedals, but the steering wheel is quite far from me and pointing to the ceiling, just like a Delta Integrale. But once you get used to it, it feels so right. This very car was Clarkson's daily from 1992 to 1993, and he will have used it to drive all up and down the country, doing his driving, presenting, writing, all of the stuff that will have laid the foundations for the crazy career he went on to have. His name was never officially on the V5 because it didn't need to be. He was TV's Jeremy Clarkson at that point, so Ford let him borrow the car for a year. Whatever PR person managed to swindle that deal did a fantastic job because this car got some serious coverage during Clarkson's tenure. At the end of Jeremy's time with the car, it was used as a giveaway car in the first ever issue of Top Gear magazine, and it came with 1 year's free insurance. Considering how high the insurance premiums were for one of these back in the day, that was some seriously nice glitter put on top of what was already an amazing prize. But even once the car was gone, it came back into Jeremy's life by borrowing it for his TV show Clarkson's Car Years. He reunited with this very car on one of the UK's most famous roads, Buttertubs Pass in Yorkshire. He says in that feature, one of my all-time favourite roads meets one of my all-time favourite cars. This Cossie. The last Escort, the Mark VI, was a pretty horrible thing in its boggle spec form. All I can think about is gaffer tape on bumpers, really badly sun-damaged paint, and 3-speed autos. Yuck. The Mark V was a better looking car, but what made it really special was its special ones, the XR3i, the RS2000, and of course, the RS Cosworth.
The Escort Cossie took over from the Sierra Cosworth and was replaced by the Mark I Focus RS. The front doors and roof are the only Mark V Escort bits. Everything else is either Sierra, including the floor pan and the mechanicals, with the other body panels being made to look vaguely like a Mark V Escort but are actually bespoke to the Cossie. The floor pan of the regular Escort was front-wheel drive and was therefore no use for creating a Group A four-wheel drive homologation special. The Escort's YB Cosworth engine gained uprated engine management software and an upgraded Garrett turbo, sending its power in a 34-66 split front to rear.
Whoever signed this thing off was an absolute legend. There's a lot of debate as to who actually designed this double stack whale tail rear wing. Some say it was Ian Callum, some say it was Frank Stephenson. Whoever did it created one of the most iconic pieces of aero to ever be put on a car. If you read the Ford press releases from the time, they will say that the Escort RS Cosworth was the first mass production car to create genuine downforce, 4.6 kilos at the front thanks to that lip down there, and 19.4 kilograms at the rear because of this. From February 92 to January 96, with me being born right in the middle of that, the Escort was the UK's performance car daddy. The other hot hatches of the time, like the Golf GTI, didn't know how to cope with this thing, considering with a minimal tune, it could pack enough punch to take on a E36 M3 or a Nissan 300ZX.
2,500 cars were needed for homologation, but the Cossie was so popular that they just kept going. Over 7,000 were made, although those early 2,500 cars were known as the big turbo cars and are seen as the more rare sought-after chassis. And this one ended up in the hands of Jeremy Clarkson.
While the camera guys are over there getting the nice beauty shots of the Cossie, I've got my laptop out to write a blog post about the car that will go on my new blog, Gasket Case, and I created my website using the sponsor of today's video, Odoo. Odoo is a platform you can use to kick off your own blog or website, or maybe something much bigger, your first full business. They offer a variety of applications from accounting to invoicing, everything you need to manage your whole business. Creating the website was very simple. Your first app is free, along with unlimited hosting and support, and you even get a free custom domain name for 1 year. If you want other apps, you can switch to a paid plan. You just define your goals, choose your color palette or insert your own logo, add pages and features you'd like, and choose your theme, and that's it. You're ready to go. I am not the best with website coding stuff, but even I found customizing my website and putting together the blog posts unbelievably simple. No technical skills are required, even a complete beginner like me can find their way around. You simply decide where you want to edit on your website or blog post and drag and drop blocks. You can customize each block, adding image and video content as well as image shape and animations. To make things even easier, you can select a page template and simply fill it up with your content. To get started with your own website or any other app through Odoo, click the link in the description below, and also make sure to check out my latest blog post on that Cossie while you're down there. Right lads, that's enough. I want to drive a Cossie some more. Where does the Escort fit into Clarkson's timeline then? Well, he started his working life as a travelling salesman for his parents' Paddington Bear toy company. He then trained to be a journalist at the Rotherham Advertiser before getting his first car writing gig at the Shropshire Star. He said he started at little Peugeots and Fiats and then gained a bit of a reputation, moved on to Fords and Rovers, and then he got his big break after 7 years of car writing, getting his first drive in an Aston Martin. In 1984, he formed the Motoring Press Agency, which allowed him to farm content out to local newspapers and a whole bunch of motoring magazines, getting his words out there. In 1988, then BBC researcher and gadget show legend John Bentley scouted Clarkson to be on the Top Gear TV show, the old version. Once Clarkson was on TV, that's when his fame really started to gain traction and momentum. In 1993, he was part of forming Top Gear magazine before the TV show came to a close. He then did some of his own independent stuff, including Clarkson's car years, before he decided to reboot Top Gear alongside Andy Willman in the early 2000s. And the rest is history. We will leave the Robot Wars era for another time.
Which is all about robots fighting.
But this Escort therefore fits right in the middle of his old Top Gear career.
There's probably no one else in the car industry that has his sheer level of influence on people's opinions of certain cars. So I wonder how many people were swooned by Clarkson's opinions and decided to take the plunge on one of these.
If we say that the Cosworth Fords were the heyday of Cosworth's road cars, you could say that nowadays things are coming full circle. Believe it or not, there was an era when some manufacturers would pay extra to put their badge on their engines rather than Cosworth's. We actually featured one of those engines on the channel recently, the V6 twin turbo found in the Nissan GT-R LM. That thing has a Nismo badge on it, but really, it's a Cossie. Now, everybody wants to be associated with Cosworth. Just look at the recent 3 British hypercars, the Aston Martin Valkyrie, Gordon Murray's T50 and Red Bull's RB17. They have an 11,000 RPM V12, a 12,000 RPM V12 and a 15,000 RPM V10 respectively, all from Cosworth. Should we have a listen to them? Let's have a listen to them. This Cosworth engine comes from an era of heavy turbocharging that the company has very much left behind now. They entered the car market with the BDA engine in the Mark I Escort. Then came the famous Cosworth YB in the Sierra Cosworth, and that combination worked so well that Ford stuck with it for the Escort Cosworth. Cosworth is all about natural aspiration these days, but back in the 90s, they were the turbo kings, and judging by the look of this engine bay, I think they were quite proud of it. Fast forward values have gone nuts. The Sierras went mad first, then the Escorts like this followed them. Even my Mondeo ST200 is by no means in the same legendary league as these things, but I've been offered some silly values for my pride and joy. If I were you, I would find a mint Mondeo ST220 estate, the later one, before they follow the same trend. So this Escort is going under the hammer at the iconic auctioneer's Silverstone Festival auction on the 24th of August. Cosworth power, all-wheel drive, functional aero, Group A homologation and Clarkson history. A guide price of £65,000 to £75,000. Worth it? Tell me what you think in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I've been Mike, and don't forget to subscribe to DRIVETRIBE.